Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Para Bellum Spotlight. I'm joined once again by Konstantinos.
Hello, everyone.
And this week we're going to be taking a look at a report on the Whisperer. So, interesting little pamphlet, little dossier compiled. I suppose the first thing that is of note is it's drawn from the Ashen Dawn's archives.
Indeed.
So the Ashen Dawn just recently have received a new cavalry unit.
Yes. And I know, like, I'm biased, but they are gorgeous.
They are really, really nice. And the interesting thing for me when that unit appeared was there's a little spoilery tag at the end of it saying that they will count as characters in First Blood with their own specific rules. So does that in some way tie into what we're going to be looking at here with the Whisperer, in that they're a sort of a special force, an elite group of knights who are sent in as sort of the last bastion against unusual forces, larger creatures, mythical sort of.
That is fairly accurate, yes. Like, we have always said that we have people complaining how, the 100 Kingdoms don't have a monster unit.
Yeah.
And we were like, but they do have the Ashen Dawn, and you have not seen them yet. So wait a minute.
you don't need a monstrous unit when you have monster hunters on your side.
I wouldn't call them exactly monster hunters, but they are essentially what you said. They are an order of elite among the elite that are the orders, in a way. So they are their own thing. And we will reveal more about them in the future.
Okay.
But what is true about them is also true about all of the orders. They have the military branch, like the Brothers Militant, which are the ones we see on the table. But that's not the beginning and the end of any order. They have other smaller, let's say, smaller orders inside them, or rather personnel that does different things. And while the Ashen Dawn is very limited in and of itself, like the number of people in the Ashen Dawn is limited compared to other orders, they still have other people doing other things.
Their reach extends beyond the military. Yeah.
Yes, which is true for anyone, especially the Order of the Sealed Temple is like, it's a financial institution similar to the Templars. They are a humanitarian institution. They are trainers. They are people of medicine. They are a lot of things, which is why the Sealed Temple was effectively controlling the 100 Kingdoms before the Empire, or before the Red Years, rather. The Ashen Dawn is much more focused in what they do. And now that the Old Dominion is moving, they are forced to move in response. So this is exactly something that dictates two things for me. Exactly the first lines, the introduction, the kind of details about the report. It indicates that the Old Dominion, we just saw it move en masse, but it didn't just become active. They have been there for some time. And at least some people, which obviously includes the Ashen Dawn, knew about this. And were doing things about it.
Well, that's it. The fact that you have questers who are sort of a mix of bookkeeper and spy and seekers of truth, possibly, or detectives working their way through. A quester in Rome, I know, were public accusers. They were the ones who would stand up and point out people's crimes in public for all to hear. So you have this branch who are just working away in the background, doing the legwork, and coming across these little hints that the veiled lady has been working away for years, decades, centuries, potentially undermining the fabric, the structure within the 100 Kingdoms in various ways, because it's not clear how much they've uncovered, if what they've uncovered has been deliberate by design, or there are competing theories even within the order itself as to where this is all coming from and how it interconnects, which is fascinating.
I would argue that even the fact that the Whisperer is working to undermine the 100 Kingdoms might not be extremely accurate or directly accurate in a way. Uh, there is a theory presented in the report that she's just recruiting.
Mm.
And considering what we know about how the Old Dominion has, in a way, limited resources at its disposal, because there are a limited number of bodies faithful to Hazliah enough that are candidates for reanimation, uh, it would make sense that, yeah, after a huge battle, we're going to lose a lot of people that we can't really replace.
Yeah.
So I think I think it can be safe to kind of theorize, at least, that the Whisperer is working on two fronts. One is recruitment, as the report indicates, that if nothing else, she wants to convert people because that means they can possibly be used later on as troops. And second of all, in a way, the Old Dominion is waging a holy war, or unholy war in this case. And that war, such a war, can be won both on the battlefield, but also in the hearts and minds of people. So I don't know if she immediately tries to kind of undermine the 100 Kingdoms, in the sense that I think it's conceivable that she doesn't even care about the 100 Kingdoms in a way, or at least she doesn't care about the 100 Kingdoms in the way about her politics,
As
who
in a
is king,
political
who is
structure, sure.
exactly doesn't really affect her in any way. Her real war is against the beliefs that stray away from Hazliah. So it is a very interesting character for me,
Yeah.
even though we don't see her at all in the report. I really like her as a character because she is exactly that long arm of the Old Dominion, and that she possibly represents this uncanny ability that Hazliah displayed when he was still forging the Dominion very early on, of converting people, using the tools or what they already believed to his advantage and to bring them to his faith. Because we already know that in the Old Dominion, very different religions and creeds were brought under one banner, and that happened both by conquest, always a favorite, but also by trade, or simply by religious conversion, or not even by conversion, but by, in a way, subverting an existing religious persona and taking their place.
Yeah. Well, that's
all these were tools at Hazliah's disposal, and if the Whisperer exactly represents that aspect of Hazliah as an anointed, then it only stands to reason that she would employ the same methods.
Yeah, I think it's the cuckoo in the nest is the most interesting one, because the societies that spring up, the fanatical death cults who sort of flare brightly and draw the attention, but they're gone just as quickly. But then at the same time, there's hints of conversion that's just being subtly tied in to clubs and societies and religious orders over long periods, where they've just got to the point where their oaths of fealty and that sort of thing have been redirected, possibly without even the people realizing, and they've now been pushed into a new direction. And that's the insidious idea that this branching network could have been going on for some considerable time, and nobody really knows how diverse, how big an issue this will be. Is I think a fascinating one, with the idea of the Whisperer sort of having worked for so long on these goals without anybody becoming aware. and it's only through glimpses at the side, seeing the grabbing hold of the tail of the elephant and thinking it's a rope, or grabbing hold of the trunk and thinking it's a snake without ever actually seeing the whole of the animal, is an interesting concept.
I think it's what makes this spotlight intriguing is that there are a lot of question marks, which is what the report is in itself supposed to represent. That we have no direct image of her, we have no eyewitness reports that are credible, at least to a degree that they would be put down. What we have are theories based on observations, usually from stuff that we found out after they reached the critical point, or by accident. So there is a big question mark that in itself inspires kind of possibly fear, but that doesn't mean that, the Whisperer has pretty much changed everything.
Yeah.
No, of course not. But it does give way, and from a narrative point of view, it provides tools for things to happen down the line.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they are basing a lot of this on hearsay and what's happened over various periods of time. There's nothing to say that the Whisperer is even one specific person. That they could be a whole network that's been working for a while, or a specific faction of priestly cult from the Old Dominion as well. So it's really they're focusing on a symbol as a person, and the fact that there are so many different names potentially means that when they get there, the idea of even being able to infiltrate one of the cults and then possibly grab, execute, or extract the Whisperer may gain them nothing in the long run.
There are two things that are not even implied, but someone might come up with, or at least that I would like to bring your attention and our readers' attention to. The first thing is that depending on how long the Ashen Dawn has been trying to track and perform such an infiltration, so far they obviously have not succeeded, which statistically might seem improbable, especially for such a well-focused organization. And the second is that the Whisperer, the report indicates that the Whisperer possibly doesn't even run these things.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a hands-on approach. Which is very like a whisper.
Yeah.
She somehow gets things going and then lets them run their course, which I think that hints towards two things, possibly. One is that she's still an Anointed, and the Anointed are not really renowned for their level-headed thinking and clear-mindedness. And the second is that there might be no grand plan here, just an instinct being followed in a way, or a need being addressed, which is what makes, I think, the Anointed scary, that they are kind of obsessive, which can make them extremely dangerous, but does not make them omnipotent. They obviously have flaws and weaknesses that can, once learned properly, could possibly be exploited. If the Old Dominion is kind of the Dark Lords of the world, then there's always the trinket that you can throw in the fire and do something about it. But at the same time, there isn't, because there's not one, there's multiple Anointed, so someone would speak. And another thing that I think is worth mentioning here is that in a very real way, the Whisperer could be the ultimate victory, or could provide the ultimate victory, if instead of killing everyone, converts everyone.
And then they
on the other hand, we know that a lot of the other Anointed don't have the same view. They are of the view that if you are not one of us, then we will force you to meet Hazliah once and for all. We will give you peace eternal. So it also, through very not very indirectly, this spotlight kind of indicates again that there are differences among the Anointed, and those differences will possibly prove significant down the line.
Yeah, it's another interesting little layer on the onion. That every time you pull it back, more is revealed beneath. The Spotlight is available now. The link will be below. You should definitely go across and take a look at the dossier that's been compiled on the Whisperer, and put your thoughts below as well. Let us know what you think of this Anointed's plan or instinctive need, whatever you see fit. Until next time, thank you very much, Konstantinos.
Thank you.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.